What's up, everybody? Daddy Valve has dropped a new piece of hardware. They're calling it the Steam Machine. I'm calling it the Steam Cube. I don't really care. I mean, I don't know. To you, you might not like the design of it. To me, I just really like the just simple black box idea here. I think it looks very sleek, very elegant. It doesn't look kind of dumb sitting on your living room counter. I think it's kind of funny how when the Xbox One came out, we all kind of like shat on the design of it. Like it was just a black box. Like, oh, like this thing looks like a DVR or whatever. I think the problem with the Xbox One was that it was just so tall. Like it just looked like a mini fridge that was sitting on your desk. Whereas this is kind of more like a cute little cube. So maybe that's the excuse why everybody loves this so much. Kind of blends in with everything else, if you will. Blends in with all the modern plain Jane style that everybody has nowadays. And we're going to kind of talk about what this is and who this is for. I think this is, if you're looking into getting into PC gaming and you don't want to spend a ton of money. And now, albeit I don't know the price. We don't know the price of this box yet. But if you want to get into PC gaming and you don't want to go through all of the rigmarole of finding out what parts you need, buying them, building them, or even buying like a expensive pre-made computer, then it seems like this is kind of where they're marketing this. They're kind of designing this thing, it sounds like, to be an all-in-one kind of gaming system, kind of close to like a console, but it just runs Steam games mostly, which, to be honest, I'm fine with. 99% of games that I play are on Steam anyway. Just to kind of give you an overview, a heads up of like performance, they're saying that anything on Steam can run on this thing, on the Steam Cube, for about 4K resolution at 60 FPS, with the caveat that you might have to kind of turn down some games to like a medium setting. So I'd say like probably if you want to get that like on like Cyberpunk, or probably have to turn it down to medium. But what this means is if you play mostly 1080p, which if you're like me, I don't really care too much about 4K gaming. I'm more so about having like a very high FPS count and refresh rate. I think this thing's going to be awesome for 1080p. And here's why. Here's some of the specs that they have. So to start off with the CPU, they have the AMD 6-core Zen 4 CPU. In terms of the GPU, we have a semi-custom AMD RDNA3 8GB GDDR6 GPU. Now, if you're like me and that all sounds like a bunch of gibberish, they're basically saying that this GPU is compared to like a 7600X or like 7600 XT card. So you can kind of just like go look up the 7600X and see what games it can run. And that's kind of like a ballpark of kind of the performance that you should be expecting. But again, if you're like me and you don't really care about 4K gaming, I don't think you're really going to have a problem running hard like much at all on this thing. It does have 16 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, and it looks like they have a 2 terabyte M.2 drive. Is like I guess is like their premium model that you can get. I think there's also a 512 M.2 version, which, I feel like these days you kind of need at least a terabyte to download a few games. So I would just go with the 2 terabyte version. They do also have a micro SD slot and the option to expand your storage if you needed. And for like some of the external things and the ports that we see, we do have, of course, that micro SD slot. And then there is 2 USB 3 ports on the front underneath the cool little customizable RGB strip on the front that you might see. They're saying that this RGB strip is like fully customizable. So not only can you just, obviously change like the color and the pattern and things like that, but you can also go in and like code it to do whatever you want. So like say you're loading up a game, you can code it to do like a loading bar, or you can code it to give you a seizure and just blank 24/7. They're kind of just giving the tools and the power to you to just do whatever you want with it, which I think is pretty neat. If we look at the front panel, there is something new here that's I think is kind of neat. There's a customizable, removable front magnetic panel. So you can just remove this, and I assume they're going to have different kind of styles and things you can buy to just replace the front plate to something more customizable if you want. The rumor is that they're also going to provide the public with the CAD files to this place. So that means that if you're savvy with CAD and stuff like that, you can just make your own custom plate and just kind of do whatever you want with it. I will not be doing that. I'm not that smart, but you have the option there if you are that smart and know how to use CAD. On the back, we have 2 more USBs, but they're Type 2, an Ethernet port, HDMI 2.0, and DisplayPort 1.4. And also a USB Type-C. So kind of your standard ports you see on most computer systems. Kind of got everything you need. So now that we've kind of went over what is the specs of the machine, let's talk about like how I feel about how it compares to everything else on the market. Like I said, I don't know the price of this thing yet, but I think with all of those specs that we have, I mean, that's a pretty solid computer to play pretty much any game you want on Steam at like a really high FPS and good quality. I think that if they can bring this thing out with a reasonable price point, I mean, I don't see why I would really buy an Xbox over this, to be honest with you, unless you just love Xbox exclusives, which we all know, sadly, that a lot of the Xbox exclusives are just not that cool anymore and not really a selling point for the console. I think maybe if Xbox didn't drop the ball on Halo, then maybe we'd be in a better spot. You know, Halo's going to PlayStation now, so that kind of just tells you the state of Xbox right now. So like I said, if they come out with a reasonable price point for this thing, I feel like this is gonna kind of take over, you know, like 99% of games, like I said, I play already are on Steam. I do have a PlayStation just because I do enjoy the exclusive titles they have on there. I think PlayStation has always had the best exclusive titles, pretty much. Everything else that I play is pretty much on Steam. And I mean, this is such a convenient package to just, you know, they really want you to just buy this and just plug it up, sign into your Steam account, and then you're just good to go. You don't have to mess with anything. You don't have to tweak any driver settings or anything like that. So I think that's a pretty big pro to what they're kind of going for here. They are saying that you can stream games from the Steam Cube to other Steam devices. So like you can stream games from the Steam machine to your Steam Deck. You can stream it to the new VR headset, which they're calling the Steam Frame. Or any other devices running Steam Link is what they're saying. I think that in combination, if you have a Steam Deck, which I have and I love and I play all the time, I cannot sing enough praises about the Steam Deck. And I have like a Switch and like the Switch 2 and stuff. I like those too, but like the Steam Deck is just by far the best mobile gaming system. I think if you have the Steam Deck, this is kind of like a major upgrade to that. Like if you want to play more demanding games, smoother at a higher resolution, and have more kind of capabilities of what you can do like a traditional PC, then this would be a great companion to have and with the Steam Deck. And so I think this is pretty cool that Steam's kind of making like their own little ecosystem here. They're saying that the Steam Cube comes with a built-in wireless adapter for the new Steam controller. So let's kind of get into what is new about the Steam controller. So to start off, I think one of the most impressive things about this new Steam controller is that it has rumored up to like a 35-hour battery life, which to me, that's just like insane. I mean, you know, you shouldn't ever have to like charge this thing much at all. Obviously, everyone's biggest gripe about wireless controllers is constantly having to charge them. So it looks like you won't really have to worry about that here. And in terms of charging, they have a cool little new magnetic wireless little dongle that you plug in, and you just magnetically just snap the controller onto the little pad, and then it starts charging. So kind of gone are the days of having to plug the cable into the controller. That's too much work for us. You know, we already got enough problems as it is. We got to wake up in the morning and stuff like that. So now you can just pop it down there on the pad and you don't have to worry about it. There are larger motors in the vibration in the controller. So if you've ever played like the Steam Deck and you understand kind of how that haptic feedback feels of like the slight vibration of the controller when you do certain things in games. That has also been improved, so a little bit more feel, a little bit more in-depth immersion, if you will. Like I said, if you use a Steam Deck, you know what this feels, and it is pretty cool. The controller is also gyroscopic and touch sensitive on the sticks, and as well as like force sensitive, I guess you want to say, on the grips. So you know how like on the Steam Deck you can the sticks are like touch sensitive and you can do certain things in the game with that. They're saying also now the grips, you can squeeze the controller and do certain different things in the game with that. I'm not really a huge fan of gyroscopic things. There's not a lot of games I play that use gyro, but if you are playing games a lot that does that, this seems like to be like honestly probably the best gyroscopic controller on the market. The cool thing also about this controller is you can kind of just use it just like with the old model of the Steam controller with pretty much any game that is on Steam that even doesn't like support controller function. You can now use a controller. The joysticks are magnetic, kind of like Hall effects, but they're saying it's a little bit different, a little bit more cooler upgraded than the Hall effect sticks, which, you know, I think every controller these days that comes out should have magnetic sticks just for longevity sake. They're much more durable and just feel a lot better in the hand. And you got your standard X, Y, A, B buttons on the right. You have also the Steam button and 4 rear programmable buttons on the back. And you can use this controller with your PC, the Steam machine. I'm pretty sure you can plug this up to the Steam Deck as well and use it. And kind of different than the original Steam controller, which for some reason only had 1 joystick. This one has 2. So very much a more familiar feel if you're a controller player. You got the 2 sticks now. You also have your quick access Steam overlay button. And if you've ever used, like I said, if you have a Steam Deck, you know what this does. It's kind of like an overlay for your Steam OS. So overall, like a really solid controller. I'm very interested to see how much this is going to cost. And if it even comes, I don't think it is probably going to come with the Steam machine / Steam Cube. I would say you might probably have to buy this separately. But I think this is a really dope controller, man. Like all the stuff we're seeing here is kind of everything you would ever need in a controller. So yep, that pretty much wraps it up. That is kind of a general overview of the Steam machine, or the Steam Cube as I'm calling it. We don't have a ton of info on like price or anything like that at the moment. It's just literally was announced the other night. So stay tuned. I'm sure more info will come out, and yeah, just kind of wanted to let you guys know, be aware of it, rant a little bit about it. So are you going to buy it? Are you interested in buying it? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm going to go hop back on Battlefield 6.